Hamilton, LLP, on behalf of the Security Industries Financial Markets Association. Mr. Brent Weisenborn, CEO of Agora X, LLC of Parkville, Missouri. And Mr. Donald Fewer, the Senior Managing Director of the Standard Credit Group, LLC of New York, New York. So welcome to the committee. Your statements will be your complete statements will be made a part of the record. We would encourage you to summarize your statements. And Mr. Weisenborn, welcome to the committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Ranking Member Lucas, and members of the committee. Thank you for the opportunity to share my views on the important questions of OTC commodity market regulation that you are now considering. Before addressing the substance of my testimony, let me place my views in context by saying a few words about Agora X and my background. Agora X is a development stage company located in Parkville, Missouri. It is dedicated to bringing efficiency, liquidity, and transparency to the over-the-counter commodity markets by means of advanced, regulatory-compliant electronic platforms for OTC transactions. Agora X was founded by F.C. Stone, a commodity firm headquartered in Kansas City. Agora X is now also partially owned by NASDAQ OMX. I've been a member of both the Chicago Board of Trade and the Kansas City Board of Trade. I also have self-regulatory experience with various committees of the NASD, now renamed FINRA. OTC markets play an important role in the market innovation. They provide an alternative venue for contract formation, price discovery, and risk mitigation. For institutional participants, these markets can provide substantial public benefit if they are required to be transparent, reportable, clearable, and to function within the bounds of an electronic platform. Well-organized OTC markets can dramatically improve efficiency of commodity markets. By doing so, OTC markets can reduce the cost that consumers ultimately pay for commodities. When the markets are transparent, liquid, and open, transaction costs fall and spreads contract. In transparent markets, there's much less room for manipulation. With broad, transparent OTC markets, the likelihood of devastating speculative bubbles is significantly reduced. Thus, well-regulated OTC markets can contribute to the integrity of U.S. financial markets as a whole. Of course, we must not ignore the lessons taught by the current crisis, but we should be careful to identify the true nature of these problems. In my view, the major problems have been in the misuse of certain commodity contracts and have not been in the means by which they are traded. This brings me to the major point I wish to make. I urge the committee to preserve the existing OTC commodity markets, but to modify the existing law to improve them. The present financial crisis has demonstrated the need to reform the OTC commodity markets. Clearly, these markets can be improved by means of mandatory reporting, clearing, and by moving these markets to transparent electronic facilities. In addition, an important issue for this committee is the treatment of OTC contracts on agricultural commodities. Contracts on agricultural commodities deserve the same treatment as contracts on non-ag commodities. Existing law and regulation discriminate against these commodities by making it difficult or impossible to create OTC agricultural contracts electronically or to clear them. These restrictions, which do not advance any regulatory goal, make no sense today. An example may help to illustrate my point. Last summer, grain prices in the United States reached a very high level, but many producers who wanted to lock in those prices with cash-forward contracts were unable to do so. The country elevators who ordinarily offer such contracts could not do so because they could not finance the margin required for offsetting future positions. I think clearable, structured OTC contracts could have emerged to bridge that gap if it were not for the restrictive regulations. We currently face a time when agricultural markets desperately need liquidity. Allowing cleared, structured OTC contracts can help facilitate and accelerate liquidity. With the safeguards that this committee will add to protect the OTC markets, it is time for eligible agricultural commodity producers, processors, and users to have full access to the OTC markets. I think four things are essential to the OTC commodity markets reform agenda. First, all physical commodities, including agricultural commodities, should be treated equally. Second, OTC commodity markets should be transparent and reportable to the CFTC. Third, OTC markets should be clearable, and less narrow CFTC-crafted exemptions apply. Fourth, all OTC contracts should be established on or reported to an electronic facility. Accordingly, I generally support the language of the draft bill, but propose that it be improved to allow equality of treatment of agricultural commodities, establish electronic documentation and audit trail, trading and clearing requirements, and to give CFTC authority to craft exemptions. Finally, the bill should appropriately define and authorize electronic trading facilities. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to share my views on the draft bill.
Thank you very much, Mr. Weisenborn.